One death changed rally forever. One crash rewrote the safety manual, and one wild maneuver got the FIA rewriting rules before the dust had even settled. These are the WRC drivers who changed the rulebook, sometimes by accident, sometimes on purpose, and sometimes just by being too damn fast. Let's start with the man who got the FIA to rethink how young and untested a rally driver could be. Cal Rovanperä, the son of former WRC driver Hwnri Toivonen. Cal was already drifting snowy roads in Finland before he was legally allowed to drive a moped. At 8 years old, he was already executing four-wheel slides better than most adults. By 16, Cal had entered competitive rallying in Latvia, which didn't require a full driver's license. He was so fast, so early, that it made the FIA nervous. There were whispers that he was too young to understand the risks. So, by the time he entered the WRC2 scene, the FIA quickly implemented a new minimum age limit. No driver under 18 could now compete at the international level. It wasn't just about safety, it was about optics. Nobody wanted to explain to the media why a teenager was crashing through snowbanks at 160 km per hour. Still, Cal would later become the youngest WRC champion in history, proving the rule wasn't about talent, it was about liability. But it's not always the young ones that shake things up. Sometimes it's the veterans. Sébastien Loeb didn't just dominate the WRC, he broke it. His 9 consecutive world titles from 2004 to 2012 weren't just impressive, they were a warning. The balance of the championship was collapsing. The Citroën C4 and DS3 WRCs were fast, yes, but combined with Loeb's ultra-consistent, ultra-clinical driving, it created a nearly unbeatable formula. Other teams cried foul, not because Loeb was cheating, but because the WRC's point system and development structure favored teams with deep R&D budgets and seasoned drivers. The result? The FIA began implementing cost caps, testing restrictions, and tighter homologation rules for car development, trying to level the playing field in a sport that had tilted too far in favor of factory teams. Then came Sébastien Ogier. After Loeb left full-time competition, Ogier filled the power vacuum, but in doing so, he revealed another problem: the road order system. In rallying, the championship leader runs first on gravel stages, meaning they effectively sweep the road clean for everyone behind them. But Ogier was so dominant, even this penalty didn't slow him down. It got so ridiculous that in 2015, other drivers began openly manipulating stage times to avoid running first. Eventually, the FIA scrapped the road order system based on championship standings and replaced it with a mixed approach: part results-based, part reverse order. Ogier didn't cheat. He just exposed a flaw, and the rules bent around him. But not every rule change comes from dominance. Some come from disaster. Safari Rally, Toyota's promising young driver, Erwin Weber, crashes into a group of spectators who had wandered too close to the racing line. Dozens injured. Chaos. This wasn't new. Spectator safety had been a problem in rally for decades, but this was the final straw. The FIA began pushing for stricter crowd control protocols. Rallies were now forced to build controlled viewing zones with marshals and barriers, especially on high-speed stages. No more free-for-all in the African bush. Rally would never be as wild or as dangerous again. Of course, you can't talk about rally safety without mentioning the darkest era of them all, Group B. It was fast, loud, spectacular, and totally unhinged. The cars were monsters. Peugeot 205 T16, Audi Quattro S1, Lancia Delta S4. Over 500 horsepower in a 900 kilogram shell, and barely any rules on chassis strength or crash survivability. Drivers were rock stars. Fans stood inches from flying metal, and the FIA just watched it all unfold. Until it went too far. Portugal. Joaquim Santos loses control of his Ford RS200 on the opening stage, hitting spectators. 3 dead, over 30 injured. 2 months later in Corsica, Lancia's rising star, Hwnri Toivonen, crashes his Delta S4 off a cliff. The magnesium chassis ignites. Toivonen and his co-driver, Sergio Cresto, burn alive. No footage, no radio call, just silence. Group B was dead within hours. The FIA banned it for 1987. A new era began. Group A. Slower, safer, tamer. But the ghost of Group B never left. Every WRC regulation since has been a reaction to that period. Weight minimums, turbo restrictors, mandatory roll cage specs, safety over spectacle. But rally didn't just get safer, it got smarter. Enter Colin McRae. Known for his all-or-nothing style, McRae embodied what fans loved about rally: maximum attack, consequences be damned. But in 2001, something strange happened. McRae crashed his Ford Focus on the Safari Rally, flipping violently after a high-speed jump. The car was unrecognizable. McRae walked away. Why? Ford had begun implementing new crash data sensors and strengthened safety cell designs, quietly preparing for what would eventually become mandatory: real-time data tracking and structural safety standards for all WRC entries. After McRae's crash, the FIA fast-tracked plans for a survival cell mandate, borrowed from F1, where the driver compartment must remain intact at all costs. McRae didn't change the rules by asking. He changed them by surviving. But not all controversies involve life and death. Sometimes it's just blatant manipulation. In 2015 Rally Mexico, Citroën's Chris Meek crashes heavily, but the stage isn't immediately red-flagged. Hyundai's Thierry Neuville takes advantage, gaining time on rivals who were later awarded notional times by the FIA. The problem? Those corrected times didn't account for road evolution. Dust, gravel, heat, all factors that changed minute by minute. The result? Accusations of unfair treatment, inconsistent rulings, and even team protests. The FIA responded by tightening the red flag protocol and introducing more granular GPS timing tools. Any driver slowing due to an obstruction would now be judged on precise split comparisons, not guesswork. No more educated estimates. And sometimes the FIA gets played in broad daylight. 1999 Rally Australia. Toyota uses a turbo restrictor with a hidden bypass mechanism, allowing more airflow than legally permitted. It's a smoking gun of cheating. the FIA bans Toyota for a year from the WRC. But here's the kicker. Toyota wasn't the only team exploiting grey areas. After the scandal broke, the FIA rewrote the technical scrutineering process. Now, turbo components were sealed with GPS-tagged tamper-proof markers, and post-rally inspections became significantly more invasive. The rule wasn't just about Toyota, it was a warning shot for everyone else. Even today, the WRC is constantly evolving, sometimes because of the drivers, sometimes in spite of them. In 2022, after just one season of Rally 1 hybrid cars, several drivers, including Ott Tanak and Elfyn Evans, voiced concerns about the new hybrid units. The extra weight, heat buildup, and unpredictability under braking weren't just hurting performance, they were increasing the risk of off-road crashes. The FIA was forced to revise the deployment rules mid-season. They adjusted regeneration zones, mandated stricter heat shielding, and eventually, by 2025, dropped the hybrid spec altogether. It was the shortest-lived top-class formula in WRC history. The cars were fast, yes, but the drivers made it clear, fast isn't enough if the car feels like a live grenade. So what does this all mean? WRC isn't just shaped by regulations, technology, or executives in Paris. It's shaped by the people who strap in, hit the rev limiter, and go flat out into forests, deserts, and mountains. The ones who crash, survive, speak out, or push too hard and pay the price. Every regulation has a name behind it. Every rule has a moment of impact. Sometimes it's a celebration that goes too far. Sometimes it's a protest. Sometimes it's a death that no one saw coming. But in the WRC, just like in life, change doesn't happen when things go right. It happens when everything goes wrong. These were the WRC drivers that forced rule changes. If you want more rally stories that go way beyond the highlights reel, hit like and subscribe. We'll see you next stage.